O Lord of hosts, be with us, for we have none other help in times of adversity but Thee. O Lord of hosts, have mercy on us.
Falun Gong is a spiritual practice that incorporates meditation, Qigong, moral philosophy, and Li Hongji introduced this fully in 1992. Now, as I said, in 1980, China experienced this resurgence of Qigong practices. We learned during the Maoist Revolution, the Cultural Revolution, they wanted to smash out as many of these traditional Chinese techniques. So whether it be, again, Qigong, traditional martial arts, traditional Chinese medicine, they wanted to do away with these. But in the 80s, they began to resurge. And then in the 90s, especially. And in 1992, the Falun Gong really gets sort of substantiated by Li Hongji. And he incorporates more of a moral teaching. So I wanted to show you a few things, actually. Let me show here. So we're going to learn about the persecution, but I wanted to show you some of the teachings, because not all of it we would actually disagree with. Here's beliefs and practices. So the central tenets are truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. But again, exercises, stuff like that. They do believe in reincarnation, which is obviously something that we wouldn't support. And that's why this stuff doesn't match on one-to-one, right? If you're an Orthodox Christian and you want to learn about traditional Chinese medicine, you really need to have an Orthodox frenema first, because this stuff doesn't match one-to-one in any way. And so social practices, they support people getting into sort of secular life, having a career, but it's all about detachment from, again, like worldly desires. So they want to detach from greed and deception. They're really antagonistic against political structures and politicians. And one of their things that they're, again, like all sexual relations outside the confines of monogamous heterosexual marriage are regarded as immoral. So they're very, very outspoken against homosexuality or any sort of like aberrant sexual practice. Where was it? Anyways. So that's one of the things that they've kind of are very outspoken about. So like Li Hongji taught that homosexuality makes one unworthy of being human and creates bad karma. It is comparable to organized crime. So definitely not PC in the West, that's for sure. He also taught that disgusting homo acts show the dirty, abnormal psychology of the gay who has lost his ability of reasoning, and that homosexuality is a filthy, deviant state of mind. Lee additionally stated in a 1998 speech in Switzerland that the gods' first target of annihilation would be homosexuals. So, very interesting. So Falun Gong's cosmology includes belief that different ethnicities have a correspondence to their own heavens, and that individuals of mixed race lose some aspect of this connection. So they're typically not big on mixed race couples. As I said, they believe in reincarnation, and some of their teachings too, they believe in like everybody, like the goal is to become like a godlike figure. So Ling Hongji, he kind of insinuates that he's like a transcendent mortal. And they have these interesting ideas about extraterrestrials, the Falun Gong, where they describe aliens. So Lee in 1990 repeated claims that aliens were responsible for scientific innovations through the manipulation of scientists. For example, in a 1999 interview with Time, Lee attributed the invention of computers and airplanes to extraterrestrials, as well as war and violence. However, his position on aliens fairly inconsistent to observers of Graeme Long and Liu Yunfeng. Lee purported that in general, extraterrestrials disguise themselves as human in order to corrupt and manipulate humanity. Very interesting, right? So we've talked a lot about Tucker Carlson. Obviously, as Orthodox Christians, we believe that extraterrestrials or aliens aren't real and that they're really demons. And his worldview of these aliens kind of maps onto ours a little bit. In the Time interview, Lee believed that aliens were attempting to replace humans through a cloning process in which human bodies would be cloned with no soul, so that the aliens could replace the soul and inhabit human bodies which to him are already perfect. So very interesting. And again, this goes on that they're considered a new religious movement and all this different stuff. But anyways, this is a good little 10-minute video on Falun Gong. Because if you're in the West and you've got into martial arts and Qigong, you know, there's all these legends about Falun Gong practitioners that can start fires with their hands, that can do all these incredible techniques that we've kind of looked at in regards to the Shaolin monks. But check this out. So it begins, it says, the campaign of persecution against Falun Gong has been carried out by government officials and police at all levels and has permeated every segment of society. So the CCP has imprisoned these people. It's illegal to practice Falun Gong within China. It's deemed like a heretical sect. And this was due to the popularity of growth. This was due to the independence from the state. So Falun Gong was operating totally independently under their leader from the CCP, which they viewed as a threat. And then the public demonstration. So as this will demonstrate, like I'm talking thousands of people were going to parks to then do their Falun Gong practices together. And obviously there's ideological differences between the CCP and Falun Gong. See how many people there are to practice?
In the late 90s, Chinese government surveys said up to 70 million people were practicing Falun Gong daily. Health bills were decreasing, crime rates were falling, and morality was rising.
So Falun Gong, the reason they said morality was rising because it's incredibly, it has a really strict moral teaching, as we saw with his beliefs about interracial couples, homosexuality, all this different stuff. They believed that living a moral life was essential to the cultivation of Qi and uniting with the Tao.
So why were these people targeted for elimination and organ harvesting? Mona Ye was one of the millions meditating in parks every day.
There was a park across the street from my house. Because the first exercise site couldn't hold so many people anymore, it divided into the second, the third, the fourth. So at every street corner and in every park, you could see people practicing Falun Gong.
There was from different kind in society. It was many policemen and military. It was just fundamental part of society at that time, and everybody knew somebody who practiced.
Falun Gong is a traditional practice of self-cultivation, a practice of slow-moving exercises, meditation, and studying of the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance, and trying to adopt those into your life.
While morning exercises had always been popular in China, Falun Gong brought more than just health benefits.
For thousands of years, the Chinese people have believed in Buddhas and Taos and becoming an immortal. Falun Gong really dared to talk about these things. And immediately people took it to heart. Oh, the true ancient good things of China have come back.
However, after 50 years of political campaigns to destroy traditional beliefs, any revival of spirituality was seen as a threat to communist rule.
Since I was 11, I experienced all of the Chinese Communist Party's campaigns. Group after group of good people were targeted. There was no faith, no truth. Falun Gong stood in stark contrast with communist ideology. So it would be very hard for it to be tolerated by the CCP.
With more practitioners than members in the Communist Party, the party chief, Jiang Zemin, saw it as a threat to his power and overruled the government support of Falun Gong.
Jiang Zemin issued the order, set up special office called 610 Office, in charge of nationwide campaign of persecution.
Known as China's Gestapo, the 610 agency was above the law and could use any and all means necessary to achieve its sole mission, to eliminate Falun Gong. The nationwide campaign began July 1999.
People were disappearing. I couldn't find my friends. You know, one day there were 30 of us in the park, and the next day they're gone. And in the middle of the park, tacked on the tree, was a government declaration that this has been outlawed.
First time I heard about the persecution, I didn't believe it at the first. And when I heard my mom is into labor camp, I was very worried. And later on, my sister was put in the labor camp. My younger brother was put into jail. Basically, my family is just torn apart. When this family is torn apart, I feel inside torn apart.
Like many practitioners, Pan Qi went to Beijing to appeal. She was arrested and imprisoned in the infamous Masanja labor camp.
I often hear the sounds of electric batons, and frequently in the middle of the night, I hear heart-wrenching screams from practitioners.
The goal was to make practitioners sign a statement to guarantee they would stop practicing, that they would renounce their faith.
She took the electric baton. When she was beating me, it felt like it was directly piercing through my heart. It was like my entire body started convulsing, like it was going to fall apart.
I personally have a friend whose mother was submersed in a cage. They put her in a little cage. They put him into sewer water in complete darkness for days. These are the different methods they're using on Falun Gong practitioners around the country, trying to transform them.
Hu Zhiming was teaching practitioners how to break through internet censorship in Shanghai when he was arrested.
Police did not know what I did, but they knew that I practiced Falun Gong, so they arrested me first. Then they investigated my background and arrested everyone who had been in touch with me.
After 2 years of interrogation, he was sentenced to 4 years at a Shanghai prison for teaching others to visit mingwei.org, which reports daily on the persecution.
Every morning after I woke up, I was taken to a room and forced to sit about 1 meter away from the TV set and forced to watch videos slandering Falun Gong. This kind of brainwashing did not work, so they changed to another approach, which was intensive slave labor.
Outside the labor camps, propaganda campaigns against Falun Gong were running 24/7 on all media.
Like, you turn on the TV, and literally the only way to describe it is propaganda marathons. You'd have mass book burnings organized by the party, steamrollers going over Falun Gong cassette tapes and CDs.
Essentially, it's a process of demonizing and dehumanizing, incessant propaganda.
In January 2001, Chinese Central Television broadcast this news that people were setting themselves on fire in Tiananmen Square, and they claimed that these were Falun Gong practitioners.
This propaganda story used a mother and her 12-year-old daughter. It was a major turning point in the CCP's campaign.
They turned Tiananmen Square into a movie set, and they used movie techniques to try to create something, but it was staged.
Because state-run media broadcasted constantly for a year, people around China, their views on Falun Gong started to change.
Initially, the Communist Party was very public about its campaign against Falun Gong. But what happened after about, I would say starting from 2002, is that you started to see really almost more of a media blackout. Falun Gong simply became a taboo topic.
With millions of practitioners in detention, one of the worst crimes in history began taking place in hospitals throughout the country as organ transplants suddenly began to skyrocket.
We've been asked to investigate allegations that there has been harvesting of organs of Falun Gong in China. Our bottom line conclusion, after considering everything as best we could, was that the allegations are true.
I began conducting comprehensive interviews with medical professionals, Chinese law enforcement personnel, and over 50 refugees from the Laogai system. But I estimate that 65,000 Falun Gong were murdered for their organs from 2000 to 2008.
Essentially, what organ harvesting means is they're taking Falun Gong practitioners literally like cattle, holding them in prison camps, testing their blood and other vital organs. And when someone comes into the country that needs a heart, a liver, a kidney, they find a match, they take the Falun Gong practitioner, extract their organs, of course, killing them in the process. it is literally life and death for many of the upper echelon of the party members that run China to not let the Falun Gong story be told.
Falun Gong has been exemplary in its response. It has never dealt with violence in a violent way. It's always responded with forbearance, with love, with truth, with patience, and ultimately that's going to prevail.
So that's kind of the end of it, but it gives you a sample of the level of persecution. Again, I mean, again, it's still illegal to practice Falun Gong with inside the CCP, even though Xi Jinping has promoted TCM, and TCM has kind of experienced a revival under Xi Jinping. Yeah, I mean, they would literally harvest their organs. And didn't you hear? It's like 6 to 5 million people. So we talk about the Armenian genocide, the Holocaust. I mean, we're talking about millions and millions of people that have been killed and tortured just because they practiced, again, a form of Qigong. Now, again, this is certainly not Christian. They have many beliefs that wouldn't coincide with our worldview, but it gives you just a snippet of how Qigong practices have been revived in China and how the CCP has also suppressed various Qigong groups like Falun Gong. So if you want to read more about that, you can check out what they have to say. And yeah, so